The boardroom at my father's company headquarters had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Seattle. 23 family members sat around the massive conference table, third-generation wealth written into every designer suit and diamond watch. I sat near the back, notebook open, observing what my family called their annual succession planning meeting, but what really amounted to a quarterly competition to prove who deserved Grandma Ellen's money most. "Let's address the elephant in the room," my father announced, standing at the head of the table with the PowerPoint remote in hand. Richard Williams, CEO of Williams Capital Holdings, a man who'd inherited his position and spent 30 years pretending he'd earned it. "This family has a problem with entitlement." Murmurs of agreement rippled around the table. Everyone assumed he was talking about someone else. "Grandma Ellen built this family's wealth through discipline and hard work," Dad continued. "She came from nothing and created something extraordinary. A $200 million estate that has sustained 3 generations of Williams family members." My Uncle Bob nodded vigorously from his seat to Dad's right. "She'd be horrified by what some of you have become. Living off trust fund distributions while contributing nothing to society." I kept my expression neutral, pen poised over my notebook as if taking minutes. No one had actually asked me to take minutes. They just assumed I would, the same way they assumed I'd fetch coffee, make copies, and generally make myself useful in whatever small ways failures could manage. "We need to make some hard decisions," Dad said, clicking to the next slide. It showed a family tree with red X marks through several names. My name had the biggest, brightest X. Not everyone in this family deserves access to Grandma Ellen's trust. It's time we rewarded success and stopped subsidizing failure. My cousin Amanda raised her hand, gold bracelets jangling. "I completely agree, Uncle Richard. Some people have been coasting on family money for years without achieving anything meaningful." She shot a pointed look in my direction. Amanda ran a luxury lifestyle consulting business that had lost $800,000 in trust funds over 4 years and had exactly 3 clients, all of whom were family friends doing her a pity favor. "Exactly," Dad said. "Which brings me to our first proposal. Moving forward, trust fund distributions should be merit-based. If you're not contributing to the family legacy or building something worthwhile, you don't deserve access to Grandma Ellen's money." Uncle Bob stood, walking to the front of the room like a prosecutor approaching the bench. "Let's be specific. Some family members have completely failed to launch. No real careers. No successful businesses. No achievements worth mentioning." He picked up a printed document. "I've prepared a comprehensive assessment of each family member's contributions and accomplishments." My stomach tightened, but I kept my face carefully blank. "Let's start with the younger generation," Uncle Bob continued, flipping through his papers. "Amanda. Successful consulting business, contributes to family reputation, maintains appropriate social standing. Recommended continued access. Full distributions." Amanda smiled triumphantly. "Marcus, VP at Williams Capital, following in his father's footsteps, represents family well. Recommended. Full distributions plus performance bonuses." My cousin Marcus, who spent 4 hours a day at the office and 6 hours on the golf course, nodded as if this was expected. "Jennifer. Married to a state senator, excellent for family political connections. Recommended. Full distributions." Jennifer, who'd married for money and status and made no secret of it, looked satisfied. Uncle Bob's tone changed, hardening. "And then we have outliers. Family members who've actively rejected success. Who've chosen paths that embarrass this family and waste their potential." Everyone turned to look at me. "Rebecca Williams," Uncle Bob said, my name sounding like an accusation. "Princeton graduate. Top of her class. Could have gone anywhere, done anything. Instead, she spent the last 7 years working at a homeless shelter." "It's a comprehensive community outreach center," I said quietly. "It's a homeless shelter," Dad corrected sharply. "You make $35,000 a year serving food to drug addicts and criminals. You have a Princeton degree and you're ladling soup." "Someone has to," I said. "Not someone with your advantages," Uncle Bob snapped. "Not someone with your education, your opportunities, your family name. Do you know how it looks when people ask what Richard Williams's daughter does and we have to say she works at a shelter? It looks like she has compassion," my Aunt Linda offered weakly from the corner. She was immediately silenced by her husband's glare. It looks like failure, Dad said flatly. Rebecca, you're 32 years old. You've accomplished nothing. Built nothing. Your siblings and cousins are executives, entrepreneurs, professionals. You're serving soup. Making $35,000 a year, Marcus added with a smirk, which probably doesn't even cover your apartment rent. I have a studio in Fremont, I said. It's $800 a month. The room erupted in shocked laughter. 800. Amanda gasped. Rebecca, I spend more than that on shoes each month. That's poverty. That's living within my means, I corrected. It's embarrassing, Dad said. And it stops now. Uncle Bob and I have discussed this extensively and we're in agreement. You don't deserve access to Grandma Ellen's trust. Not while you're wasting your life and embarrassing this family. Uncle Bob nodded. The trust was meant to elevate the Williams name, not subsidize mediocrity. Your grandmother worked too hard to have her great-granddaughter serving homeless people. Grandma Ellen volunteered at soup kitchens, I pointed out quietly. That was different, Dad snapped. She'd already built her wealth. She'd earned the right to be charitable. You haven't earned anything. So what are you proposing? I asked, keeping my voice level. Complete suspension of your trust access, Uncle Bob announced. No monthly distributions. No emergency funds. No property assistance. You want to live like a poor person working a poverty wage job and pretending you're making a difference? Fine. But you'll do it without family money subsidizing your delusions. Several family members nodded approvingly. My cousin Jennifer leaned forward. It's really for your own good, Rebecca. Maybe cutting you off will force you to get a real job. Use that Princeton degree for something meaningful. Define meaningful, I said. A career, Dad said. Advancement. Building something. Making money. The things successful people do. I am building something, I said. The center serves 400 people a week. We've helped 200 individuals find permanent housing this year. We've connected over 300 people with addiction services. We've wasted your potential, Uncle Bob interrupted. Those people would have found help somewhere else. Social services exist. Government programs exist. You didn't need to throw away your life to hand out sandwiches. So it's decided, Dad announced. Rebecca's trust access is revoked immediately. Perhaps in a few years, if she comes to her senses and pursues a respectable career, we can revisit this decision. All in favor? Uncle Bob called out. 21 hands rose. Only my Aunt Linda abstained, looking uncomfortable. Motion carried, Dad said with finality. Rebecca, I hope you understand this isn't punishment. It's motivation. We're pushing you toward success. By cutting off my trust fund, I said. A trust fund you've been using to subsidize a lifestyle of failure, Marcus added. How much do you get monthly? $15,000? And you're still living in an $800 studio like a college student. I didn't bother correcting him about the distribution amount. Let them think whatever they wanted. Any other business? Dad asked, moving on as if he hadn't just publicly declared his daughter unworthy of family money. The meeting continued for another hour. Discussions of investment strategies, property acquisitions, business ventures. All funded by Grandma Ellen's trust, managed by people who'd never earned a dollar that didn't come from her initial success. When the meeting finally ended, family members clustered in small groups, pointedly excluding me. I gathered my notebook and headed for the elevator. Rebecca, wait. Aunt Linda caught up with me in the hallway. I'm sorry about that. They were unnecessarily harsh. It's fine, I said. It's not fine. You're doing good work. Important work. Your grandmother would be proud. Would she? I asked. Yes, Linda said firmly. She always said success wasn't about money. It was about impact. I smiled slightly. Dad and Uncle Bob seemed to have missed that lesson. They've missed a lot of lessons, Linda muttered. But Rebecca, what will you do? Can you survive without the trust distributions? I'll manage, I assured her. If you need anything. I won't. But thank you. I rode the elevator down to the lobby, walked to my 12-year-old Honda Civic, and drove back to my studio apartment in Fremont. Once inside, I made tea, sat on my second-hand couch and pulled out my phone. 3 missed calls from the same number. Cascade Private Bank, Trust Administration Department. I called back. Jennifer Morrison, Senior Trust Administrator, answered immediately. Ms. Williams, she said, relief evident in her voice. I've been trying to reach you all afternoon. We have a situation. I know, I said. I was at the family meeting. Then you know about the OI proposal regarding your trust access? Complete suspension, yes. They voted. It passed overwhelmingly. There was a long pause. Ms. Williams, I don't think your family understands the trust structure. I'm certain they don't, I agreed. Should I inform them of your position before they proceed with any formal actions? Not yet, I said quietly. Let's see how far this goes. Rebecca, Jennifer said, dropping into the familiar form we'd used during our monthly meetings for the past 8 years. They're planning to file suspension paperwork tomorrow. Your father has already contacted the bank about redirecting your distributions to a performance review fund, whatever that means. Which he can't authorize, I said. Which he absolutely cannot authorize, Jennifer confirmed. But he doesn't know that. None of them do. Should I tell them that trust modifications require approval from the trustee, or should I let them file the paperwork so you can decline it formally? I considered. What would cause more impact? Formal filing, Jennifer said immediately. They'd have to submit detailed justifications, distribution histories, proposed modifications. All of which would be reviewed and declined by you as trustee. It would create a paper trail documenting exactly how little they understand about the trust they've been living off for decades. Then let them file, I decided. You're sure? This could get uncomfortable. It's already uncomfortable, I pointed out. They just declared me a failure in front of 23 family members and voted to cut me off from money they think I need. Let's make sure they understand what they actually voted on. All right, Jennifer said. One more thing. Your Uncle Bob called this afternoon asking about accelerating his distributions and redirecting funds from underperforming beneficiaries. He specifically mentioned reallocating your monthly amount to Marcus and Amanda for their business ventures. Of course he did. He seemed quite confident the bank would comply. When I asked for proper authorization, he said he'd handle the administrative details tomorrow. I closed my eyes. Uncle Bob had always been ambitious, but this was bold even for him. What would those redistributions amount to? Your current monthly distribution is $38,000. Your uncle wants to split it between Marcus and Amanda, $19,000 each, in addition to their current distributions of $42,000 and $35,000 respectively. Plus he's requesting a one-time business capitalization payment of $500,000 total for their ventures. Based on what authority? Based on his assumption that he has some, Jennifer said dryly. Ms. Williams, your family seems to believe the trust operates like a family democracy. That decisions get made by vote. That your father and uncle have management authority. Grandma Ellen would be horrified, I murmured. Your grandmother was very specific in her trust documents, Jennifer said. She wanted someone with financial wisdom, charitable values, and the strength to resist family pressure. That's why she chose you. That's why she chose a 32-year-old serving soup, I said. Not exactly what the family expects. Exactly what they needed, Jennifer corrected. Should I schedule a formal review meeting? I'll need to inform them that their suspension request has been received and will be reviewed by the trustee. Standard procedure. Schedule it for next week, I said. Give them time to feel confident. Let Dad and Uncle Bob draft their justifications and plan their fund redistributions. Let them believe they're reshaping the family's financial future. You're enjoying this, Jennifer observed. I'm dreading this, I corrected. But if they're going to publicly humiliate me and declare me unworthy, they should at least understand who they're humiliating. After we hung up, I sat in my studio apartment, the $800 studio that had scandalized my family, and thought about Grandma Ellen. She'd built Williams Capital from nothing in the 1960s, when women entrepreneurs were rare and venture capital was rarer. She'd grown a small investment fund into a financial empire through careful analysis, calculated risks, and an absolute refusal to follow conventional wisdom. Most people think money is about spending, she told me during one of our last conversations before her death. But real wealth is about responsibility. You're responsible to the people who helped you earn it, to the community that supported you, and to the generations who'll come after you. Dad doesn't see it that way, I'd said. I was 24 then, fresh out of Princeton, watching my father treat the family business like a personal piggy bank. Your father thinks money is a score, Grandma had replied. Something you accumulate to prove you're winning. He doesn't understand that wealth is a tool for building something bigger than yourself. And Uncle Bob? Bob thinks money is power. Something you use to control people and situations. He's never understood that real power comes from knowing when not to use your resources. What do you think money is? I'd asked. Responsibility, she'd said simply. And Rebecca, you're the only one in this family who understands that. 6 months later she died. And the reading of her trust documents had been the first shock wave through the Williams family. Ellen Williams had established the family trust with $100 million from her company's sale. Through careful management and continued growth investments, it had reached $200 million. It provided substantial monthly distributions to all family members, funded business ventures, and maintained the lifestyle everyone had come to expect. But the trust documents contained one provision that no one had anticipated. Sole trustee authority vested in Rebecca Williams, effective upon Ellen Williams's death. Not Richard Williams, her son and CEO of Williams Capital. Not Robert Williams, her son and CFO. Not the family lawyer or the bank or any professional advisor. Her granddaughter. The Princeton graduate who'd announced she was going to work at a homeless shelter instead of joining the family business. This must be a mistake, Dad had said at the reading. This is highly irregular, Uncle Bob had added. This is your mother's clearly stated intention, the attorney had replied, pointing to paragraph after paragraph of explicit language naming me as trustee with full discretionary authority over all distributions, investments, and trust modifications. Rebecca is 24 years old, Dad had protested. She's never managed anything. She'll manage now, the attorney had said. Those were Ellen's words. She believed Rebecca had the judgment and values necessary for responsible stewardship. They tried to contest it. For 3 months, lawyers had reviewed the documents, looking for loopholes or grounds for challenge. But Grandma Ellen had been thorough. The trust was ironclad and my position was absolute. Eventually they'd accepted it with conditions. I would manage the trust quietly. Make no drastic changes. Approve distributions as requested. Basically serve as a rubber stamp while letting Dad and Uncle Bob maintain the appearance of authority. And for 8 years I had. Not because I was weak or easily manipulated, but because Grandma Ellen had taught me that sometimes the best use of power is patience. I'd approved every distribution request. Funded every business venture. Maintained every lifestyle. I'd watched Marcus lose $3 million on poorly researched real estate deals and Amanda burn through $800,000 on a business with no viable model. I'd seen Jennifer spend $40,000 a month on country club memberships and luxury vacations. I'd observed my father use trust funds to subsidize his failing business decisions and Uncle Bob treat the trust like his personal investment account. And I'd said nothing, approved everything, and waited for the moment when they'd pushed too far. That moment had arrived today. The next morning I went to work at the Fremont Community Outreach Center like always. I ran our morning intake meeting, coordinated with our housing placement team, and spent 2 hours helping a formerly homeless veteran navigate VA benefits paperwork. My phone buzzed constantly with family messages. Marcus, sorry about yesterday. Dad and Uncle Bob were harsh. But you know they have a point about your career. Amanda, we're doing this because we care. Maybe without the trust fund cushion you'll finally pursue something real. Jennifer, I voted for you because families need to stick together even when making tough decisions. This is for your own good. Dad's message was shorter. The bank will contact you about distribution suspension. Don't make this difficult. Accept it gracefully and use it as motivation. I responded to none of them. At 3 o'clock my phone rang. Jennifer Morrison from Cascade Private Bank. They filed, she said without preamble. Formal request for immediate suspension of distributions to Rebecca Williams, filed by Richard Williams as family representative and Robert Williams as trust advisor. They've included a 12-page justification document. 12 pages, I repeated. It's quite detailed. They cite your career choice, income level, lifestyle, and what they call fundamental misalignment with family values. They've also included the vote tally from yesterday's meeting as evidence of family consensus. And the reallocation requests? Separate filing. Uncle Bob wants to redistribute your monthly distributions and access your emergency fund allocation for business capitalizations. He's requesting immediate authorization for $900,000 in total fund transfers. $900,000, I said slowly. $500 for business capitalizations as discussed, plus $400,000 representing your accumulated emergency fund that he claims you don't need since you're financially irresponsible. I was silent for a moment, processing the magnitude of their miscalculation. Ms. Williams? Jennifer asked. Should I schedule the review meeting? Yes, I said. This Friday. 10 a.m. require attendance from everyone who voted on my suspension. And Jennifer? Make sure they understand this is a formal trust review with the trustee. Use that exact language. With the trustee, Jennifer repeated, her voice carrying a note of anticipation. Not by the trustee, or before the trustee. Just with. Exactly. Let them think it's a procedural meeting with some bank administrator. Let them come in confident. This is going to be memorable, Jennifer said. Grandma Ellen always said the best lessons are the ones people teach themselves, I replied. Friday morning arrived cold and clear. I dressed in a simple navy suit, not designer, just professional, and drove to Cascade Private Bank's downtown offices. Jennifer met me in the lobby. They're all here, she said. Dad, Uncle Bob, Marcus, Amanda, Jennifer. Plus 3 other family members who voted for suspension. They're in the large conference room. How confident do they look? Marcus brought champagne, Jennifer said flatly. I think he's planning to celebrate your distribution redistribution. Of course he is. We walked to the conference room. Through the glass walls I could see my family arranged around the table like victors dividing spoils. Dad sat at the head, Uncle Bob to his right, both looking proprietary and pleased. Marcus was indeed holding a champagne bottle. Amanda was typing on her phone, probably already planning how to spend her increased distributions. Jennifer opened the door. Thank you all for attending. Let's begin. I followed her in, taking a seat near the back of the room. Several family members glanced at me with surprise. Rebecca, Dad said, his tone annoyed. What are you doing here? This is a trust administration meeting. I'm aware, I said calmly. This doesn't concern you, Uncle Bob added. We're meeting with the bank to finalize your distribution suspension. You don't need to be present for administrative details. Actually, Jennifer said, her professional tone cutting through the room, Rebecca does need to be present. She's the trustee. The silence was immediate and absolute. Dad blinked. The trustee? What are you talking about? There's been some mistake. There's no mistake, Jennifer said. She opened her tablet, displaying trust documents on the screen at the front of the room. The Ellen Williams Family Trust, established March 15, 1995, amended final time April 3, 2017. Trustee, Rebecca Williams. Sole authority over all distributions, investments, and trust modifications. Uncle Bob's face had gone red. That's impossible. We've been managing this trust for 8 years. Richard and I approve all major decisions. You've been requesting distributions, Jennifer corrected. Rebecca has been approving them. There's a significant difference. Marcus stood abruptly, the champagne bottle forgotten. This is insane. Charlie can't be the trustee. She's working at a homeless shelter. She's a Princeton graduate with a degree in economics and a minor in public policy, Jennifer said. She interned at this bank for 3 summers during college, passed her Series 65 exam at 23, and has served as trustee of a $200 million trust since age 24. I've worked with professional trustees for 20 years, and Rebecca is among the most conscientious and financially literate I've encountered. Amanda's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. This meeting, Jennifer continued, was requested to review the formal distribution suspension and reallocation requests filed by Richard and Robert Williams. As required by trust protocols, all such requests must be reviewed and approved by the trustee. He turned to me. Ms. Williams, you've received copies of all filings. Are you ready to provide your decisions? I stood slowly, walking to the front of the room. 23 pairs of eyes tracked my movement, no longer dismissive or pitying but stunned. I've reviewed the suspension request, I said, keeping my voice level. The 12-page justification detailing my supposed failures and unworthiness. The vote tally showing family consensus that I should be cut off from trust access. Dad found his voice. Rebecca, if you're the trustee, why didn't you tell us? Why let us file this request? Because you needed to file it, I said simply. You needed to put in writing exactly what you think of me. Exactly how you measure success. Exactly how you value family members. We were trying to help you, Amanda protested weakly. Were you? I pulled up the trust documents on the screen. Let's review some facts. Over the past 8 years, I've approved every distribution request made by this family. Every business venture. Every emergency fund. Every lifestyle expense. I clicked to a financial summary. Marcus, you've received $3.8 million in distributions plus $2.2 million in business bailouts when your real estate deals failed. Amanda, you've received $2.6 million in distributions plus $800,000 in business funding for a consulting company with 3 clients. Jennifer, you've received $3.1 million in distributions while contributing nothing except a marriage to a politician. I turned to my father. Dad, you've received $5.2 million in distributions plus trust-backed loans totaling $4 million to subsidize business decisions that lost Williams Capital $30 million in shareholder value. Dad's face was ashen. Uncle Bob, I continued, you've received $4.9 million in distributions plus numerous trust-backed investments that have underperformed market averages by an average of 7% annually. Uncle Bob didn't speak. And me. I pulled up my distribution history. I've received $38,000 a month, $456,000 annually, for a total of $3.6 million over 8 years. Which is currently sitting in investment accounts earning market returns because I've been living on my salary from the center. You've been saving your distributions? Jennifer whispered. I've been living within my means, I corrected. $35,000 a year is a good salary. My studio costs $800 a month. My car is paid off. I don't need designer clothes or country club memberships or luxury vacations. So yes, I saved my trust distributions because Grandma Ellen taught me that wealth isn't about spending, it's about responsibility. I clicked to the next slide. Now let's discuss your suspension request. You want to cut off my trust access because I've failed and embarrassed the family with my career choice. You want to redirect my distributions to fund Marcus and Amanda's business ventures. We thought, Marcus started. You thought I was financially dependent on trust money I don't use, I said. You thought I was wasting my education on soup kitchens when I'm actually running a comprehensive outreach center that serves 400 people weekly with a 92% success rate in housing placements. You thought I was failing while I was building something that actually matters. Rebecca, Dad said, his voice strained, we didn't know. You didn't ask, I said. In 8 years as trustee, not one of you has asked about trust structure, distribution limits, or long-term preservation strategies. You've just assumed the money was infinite and someone else was managing the details. I pulled up another document. The trust distributes approximately $8 million annually to family members, 4% of assets, which is the maximum recommended rate for long-term preservation. Your monthly distributions represent 95% of that total. There's virtually no cushion for market downturns, emergencies, or future generations. What are you saying? Uncle Bob asked carefully. I'm saying that for 8 years I've been approving distributions that exceed prudent management guidelines because you're family. I've been funding business ventures with poor prospects because family support is part of the trust's purpose. I've been maintaining lifestyles that depend on unsustainable distribution rates because Grandma Ellen wanted her family provided for. I looked around the room. And in return, you voted to declare me a failure and cut me off because I chose meaningful work over wealth accumulation. The silence was suffocating. So here's my decision on your requests, I said. The distribution suspension for Rebecca Williams is denied. My monthly distributions will continue as scheduled. Relief flickered across several faces. However, I continued, your request has prompted a comprehensive trust review. After 8 years of reactive management, it's time for proactive oversight. The relief vanished. Effective immediately, all distribution requests over $5,000 require detailed justification and trustee approval. All business funding requires comprehensive business plans reviewed by independent consultants. All trust-backed loans require formal terms, market rate interest and repayment schedules. You can't be serious, Marcus said. I'm completely serious. Additionally, family members who've received business bailouts will have their distributions temporarily reduced by 20% until those bailouts are repaid or until the trust recoups its losses. That's not fair, Amanda protested. It's standard trust management, Jennifer interjected. Most trusts would have implemented these policies from the beginning. I gave you 8 years of generous approvals, I said. I trusted you to use family resources responsibly. You've proven that trust was misplaced. And the reallocation requests? Uncle Bob asked tightly. Denied, I said flatly. Marcus and Amanda will not receive increased distributions. The emergency fund will remain allocated as designed. And Uncle Bob, your request for immediate capitalization funds is denied pending proper business justification. Uncle Bob stood, his face purple. You're punishing us for trying to help you. This is vindictive. This is responsible trust management, I said calmly. Grandma Ellen created this trust to provide for family while preserving wealth for future generations. For 8 years, you've treated it like an unlimited checking account. That ends now. We'll contest this, Dad declared. We'll challenge your authority. On what grounds? Jennifer asked. Ellen Williams's trust documents are ironclad. Rebecca has absolute authority. And frankly, given the financial records, any court would see she's been extraordinarily generous to a family that just voted to cut her off for not being successful enough. I gathered my papers. You wanted me to understand consequences. Congratulations, we all get to learn about consequences now. Where are you going? Dad demanded. To work, I said. I have a staff meeting at 11. We're expanding our housing placement program to serve 60 additional families. It won't make me rich, but it will make a difference. I walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. The vote you took at the family meeting? The one declaring me unworthy of trust access? I'm having it documented in trust records. Not as punishment, as education. So that someday when your children and grandchildren ask how trust management works, they'll see exactly what happens when family confuses wealth with worth. I left them in the conference room, stunned and silent. As I drove back to the center, my phone started ringing. First Amanda. Rebecca, please, can we talk? I didn't understand. Then Marcus. This is insane. You can't just change everything. Then Jennifer. I'm so sorry. I voted for you, but I didn't know. Dad's message came as I pulled into the center's parking lot. We need to discuss this as a family. This isn't how Ellen would have wanted things. I responded for the first time in 5 days. Grandma Ellen knew exactly what she wanted. She wanted someone who understood that success isn't measured in dollars and status isn't measured in titles. She wanted someone who'd protect this family from its own worst instincts. He chose me. And now we all know why. That afternoon, I ran intake interviews, coordinated housing placements, and helped a single mother navigate childcare subsidy applications. My phone kept buzzing with family messages. Apologies, justifications, pleading requests for meetings. At 5 o'clock, Aunt Linda appeared at the center. I found her in the lobby, looking uncomfortable in her designer suit among our clients. Rebecca, she said quietly. I owe you an apology. I didn't vote for your suspension, but I didn't speak up against it either. I should have. Why didn't you? I asked. Because they were so confident, she admitted. Richard and Bob presented it as obvious, necessary. Everyone agreed. I thought maybe they knew something I didn't. They knew nothing, I said. They never asked. Linda nodded slowly. Your grandmother used to say the biggest blind spot wealthy people have is assuming they understand everything because they understand money. I never really grasped what she meant until today. What changed? Watching their faces when Jennifer revealed who the trustee was, Linda said. Watching them realize they'd spent 8 years treating you like a failure while you were actually the one holding everything together. It was humbling. Good, I said simply. What happens now? Linda asked. Now they learn to manage resources responsibly, I said. They learn that trust funds aren't entitlements. They learn that success comes in many forms. And maybe, if they're capable, They learn that family means supporting each other, not just supporting those who make you look good. Linda smiled sadly. Ellen would be proud of you. I hope so, I said. Because I'm doing exactly what she asked me to do, protecting this family from itself even when they hate me for it. They don't hate you, Linda said. They're terrified of you. There's a difference. After she left, I returned to my studio apartment. The $800 studio that had scandalized my family but represented something they'd never understood. The freedom that comes from needing less, the security that comes from self-sufficiency, and the power that comes from knowing your worth isn't determined by your bank balance. My phone rang one last time. Jennifer Morrison from the bank. Eventful day, she said with understatement. Will they comply? I asked. They don't have a choice. But Rebecca, I think this was necessary. Sometimes families need to hit bottom before they learn to climb responsibly. Is threatening to cut off your daughter really hitting bottom? No, Jennifer said. Realizing that daughter was protecting you from your own financial recklessness while you publicly humiliated her. That's hitting bottom. What they do with that knowledge will determine whether they climb back up or not. And if they don't? If they contest the new policies or refuse to adapt? Then you reduce distributions to minimum required levels and put the trust in preservation mode, Jennifer said matter-of-factly. You have absolute authority for a reason. Use it. That night, I made dinner in my small kitchen, graded some GED essays from center students, and reviewed trust documents one more time. Grandma Ellen's voice echoed through every provision. Money is responsibility. Power is knowing when not to use it. Success is building something that matters. Tomorrow my family would wake up to a new reality. Their trust fund access wasn't suspended, but their assumptions were shattered. Their distributions would continue, but their entitlement wouldn't. They declared me a failure, but I'd revealed I was the foundation they'd been standing on. And maybe, just maybe, they'd finally learn what Grandma Ellen had tried to teach them all along. That real wealth isn't about having money. It's about knowing what to do with it. It's about responsibility over extravagance. It's about legacy over lifestyle. They'd called me a failure for serving soup. I'd shown them I was protecting their future. Now they'd have to decide which version of success they really valued, and whether they were capable of living up to the legacy Grandma Ellen had entrusted me to preserve.